Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are now at episode 6 of Workforce at Work. I am your host, Shamar Heron, Executive Director of Michigan Works Southeast, and we have a very special guest, the most energetic person I've met all year, President and CEO of True Community Credit Union, Ms. Chrissy Siders. How are you this morning?
I'm great. I wish you had said that in December, not in March, because now you've got 9 months to meet people that are more energetic than me.
But you hold the title, so don't you worry about it.
All right, that's good.
All right. And so we're going to get into all things financial literacy, as April is Financial Literacy Month. So thank you for joining us. We're excited to have this conversation. We're going to jump right into it, if you don't mind.
No, that sounds great.
Awesome. So Chrissy, how about so people can get an understanding, you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I have been with True Community Credit Union for 24 years this year. I started when I was 10, as you can tell.
There it is.
I started as a part-time teller while I was going to college, and just over time worked myself into a vice president role, and then 5 years ago became CEO. I drank the Kool-Aid very early, the credit union Kool-Aid, fell in love with the industry and have a lot of passion for it. I'm also celebrating my 25-year wedding anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
Married my high school sweetheart and when we were 19 and 20. And so we are celebrating 25 years this year. And we have 2 amazing daughters who are 21 and 19. So I'm an empty nester. Amazing. But
I've got a 21 and 19-year-old daughters myself, one of each. We are empty nesters. So virtual high five.
Yes.
Leaving things somewhere. When you get home, they're still there.
Yes. And nobody asking you what's for dinner, texting you at 4:00. When will you be home? What's for dinner? Yeah.
My wife and I, we joke about who cares what's for dinner now, right?
Cereal's for dinner.
Whatever you want. That's what
right.
it is.
That's
so
right.
Awesome. So congratulations on 25 years of marriage and 25 years being with the organization. What a ride, man. That is awesome to hear. So great job and congratulations on working your way through the organization.
Thank you.
Let me find out this. As the president and CEO of True Community, what are some of your responsibilities? What do people look to you in your role as?
So I like to coin myself as a counselor, a therapist, someone who's inspiring joy every day. It's the people. I absolutely have a responsibility for the strategic direction of the organization and, for getting the organization to be sustainable, to be healthy. But it is the people, and it's 2 segments. It's our employees and it's our membership. And, I take it very, very seriously that's where my responsibility is. Whenever somebody asks me what I do when they, find out that I work at True Community, I always say I'm blessed to be able to lead an amazing team, to pour into our communities. The strategic stuff is there and it's important and it gets us where we need to be, but it's the people component that I say is the majority of my duties.
Yeah, absolutely. From one executive to the other, if you don't have a team that believes in you and, like you said, is drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid to understand that it's bigger than us, you're really going to struggle. But because I'm also a member at the credit union, I get to see your fantastic staff, all of the smiles. I love when they harass me. They make me smile so much. And it just emanates joy. You talked about the joy that you're trying to inspire in the workplace. And when I can see it firsthand, the radiation that's happening of positivity, it's contagious. I always walk out smiling, whether I've got money in the bank or not. So,
I love to hear that. Thanks for your membership, but thanks for sharing that outlook as well.
Oh, no, the ladies are absolutely a pleasure to work with.
Yes.
So speaking of that, as you worked your way through the organization and through it as well, just becoming sort of the ultimate leader at True Community Credit Union, did you have any heroes or sheroes that allowed you to glean and learn from them? So any heroes or sheroes that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, so that's a big story of my professional career is my mom. I call her my mama. I actually lost my mom in 2014 after about 14 years of battles with strokes, and ultimately she was paralyzed. And it's ultimately what made us have our kids as young as we had them, so that my mom could spend some time with her grandkids before she passed. But my professional career grew. Actually, it sounds very odd, but when my mom went into the hospice home, and so we have this hospice home in Jackson. I chair the board for it. It is a place where you can go for end of life care. And my mom went there in April of 2014, and I'm kind of a control freak. So I asked the doctor, okay, how much do I have? How long do I have? Like, I'm going to just settle in here. And they said, you've probably got, hours to days before she passes away. I said, okay. I set up in the room, got my laptop, slept in one of those awful chairs that, they put in the room that, husbands get to experience when their wives have babies. And my mom woke up after about a week, and she ultimately lived for another 8 months in the hospice home. And she passed away in December of 2014. And so lots of good came out of that. And people often think that's weird to have that conversation about end of life. But one thing that I learned from my mom is I would go visit her every single day. So on my lunch hour, or maybe after work when my daughter was at soccer practice, and I would walk into her hospice room and she would have this huge smile on her face. And I'm like, what is wrong with her? She's in a hospital bed. She can't feed herself. She can't go to the bathroom by herself. She can't live with my dad, at their home. They don't have a normal marriage. Like, why does this lady have such a big smile on her face? And we would read this devotion together. It was called Jesus Calling. And we came upon one day a devotion on joy. And I read the devotion, and my mom was just smiling, and ironically, her name was Joyce. And it hit me. And I said, that's what's up with her, is she has joy, right? That regardless of her circumstances, she has joy. She has people who come visit her. She has someone who takes care of her. She's safe. She's secure. Like, she just had joy. And I remember going back to work and thinking, gosh, that's so weird. But I think that's what's missing from my career, my work life as well, is I just don't have joy. That regardless of my circumstances, regardless of the climb, regardless of the drama, regardless of the stress, I wasn't necessarily feeling the joy piece. And so I found a book. I thought, well, does anybody think about this at work, or is this just like crazy Chrissy here, right? And I found a book by Rich Sheraton called Joy Incorporated. And I read it. And I was like, oh, thank heavens, there's someone else who thinks like me. And so I started on this journey of what does it look like to have joy in the workplace? And how do we, regardless of our circumstances, say it as well? And for me, that was a few-year journey for me. And I think ultimately it's what prepared me to step into the CEO position at the time that I did. It's what allowed me to become a servant leader and to stop worrying about what's next for Chrissy, and then worry about, how do I take care of my team and my people? And my mama taught me all of that during her end of life. And that to me has been beyond a shiro to me.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
That's not only inspiring, but it also brings about hope,
Absolutely.
Just completely understanding, number one, that you have to find your own joy within yourself. Right?
100%.
That's where it starts. And then you can pass it along to others, but also having that faith that allowing things to be what they are and controlling what you can control.
Absolutely.
Which was your approach and your attitude, just like your mom did. I got a mama too, and thankfully she's still with us. But us observing our parents as they age and go into different places and spaces in their life should bring about a certain amount of joy, hopefully, because it's this circle of life that's happening, right?
Yes.
And you are finding yourself at times caring for your parent. That allows us to be able to not only reinforce ourselves, but then, like you said, as you go into the workplace, as you start to lead others, as you're a servant leader, I think back to having to change diapers, right?
Right.
That's partially servant leadership, but also a responsibility and a weight that we carry as parents. But it's you take the context and you remix it a little bit. As a leader in the workplace, right? You're changing some unfortunate situations. You're cleaning people's situations up, especially you in the fiscal world or the financial world. Mm-hmm. You're ultimately giving people opportunities as well. Not only those who work for you, but those members as well, right? So 100%. You are doing some amazing work. I call it the yeoman's work. So thank you. Yeah. And so if we go a little tangential to that Shiro question, and we start to talk about your work at True Community Credit Union, what are some of the goals of the credit union? What are some of the goals that you and your leadership team have put in place?
Yeah, so if you were to go to our website, you would see our purpose, mission, vision, and values. And they are very different than what you might see at some other financial institutions. And that is very, very intentional on our part. When I first became CEO, remember, I've been here 24 years, so I knew the history of the organization and I understood kind of how we got where we got. But our purpose was something like to be your primary financial institution. And I was like, that's so like, ew, like, is that really going to make somebody want to join my credit union? And so we went through a whole exercise over about a year where I kind of laid my heart out on what I thought our purpose, mission, vision, and values should be. And then my senior leadership team, I gave it to them and they marked it all up and, they put their heart on top of it. And then the rest of the leadership of the organization did the same thing. And then we took it to all of our employees at one of our annual family reunions that we have and let them do the same thing. And we ultimately came to our purpose being inspiring the pursuit of a life well lived. It's all about inspiration. Our mission, though, to me is actually my favorite part. And it's to cultivate legacy defining moments for the people and places that we serve for generations to come. And for me, that's the work that we're doing. So what does that look like? I use my family as an example. When we first had our kids, I certainly opened up accounts for them, right, to start saving for the college that I'm paying for now, right? As they got older, they got jobs, they got their own debit cards, right? My oldest got her first car because she had to give her car to the youngest. And then she just bought a house and she just got married. And the credit union has been there for every single piece of that with one of our products, our services, or our people, right? And then I liken it to my parents. I lost my mom in 2014 and my dad in 2018. And the credit union helped me close out their life and close out their accounts. Wow. So every new employee that comes in the organization I meet with, and I tell them, so here's the really cool thing. We have an opportunity as an organization to attach to each person from birth to death. And there aren't that many industries that can say that. Yeah, and absolutely. All that in between, man, there's some good legacy defining moments in there, right? And listen, I named a bunch of good ones. Here's the other thing. When you come to us and, you can't pay your bills, right? You can't pay your loan. Maybe you're overdrafting your account. We have products and services and people to help you through that. And so it's not just the good, it's the icky part of being, financial literate as well. And that to me is what we're here to do, is really step into those legacy defining moments for our members.
Wow. Well said, Chrissy. Thank you so much. You're knocking it out of the park. So just keep doing an amazing job, not only in your work, but on this podcast. You're making my job easy here.
Oh, great.
Again, if you're just joining us, Shamar Heron, Michigan Work Southeast. We were watching Workforce at Work, and we have the honor and pleasure to have Chrissy Siders here, President and CEO of True Community Credit Union. Chrissy, we've talked about some of what I like to call like the soft skills of life, right? Some of the more touchy-feely things. But now I want to ask you a few more questions just around, financial literacy, how you approach it, how you view it. And then hopefully you're going to share some opportunities, ideas, and thoughts with the viewers and listeners to help them, because April is Financial Literacy Month, and that's why we have you here with us. Outside of your sparkling personality and great insight. So can you tell us, what does financial literacy mean to you?
Oh, you know what? That's such a good question because I think it means something different for each person, and it means something different for each of us depending on the season of life that we're in. My husband and I were just having this conversation the other day where you remember we got married at 19 and 20, super young. I think when I started the credit union, I was making $7 an hour.
Wow.
We had a mortgage, we had car payments, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and I remember a day where I was scrounging for change just to buy my pop that I really wanted because I have a slight addiction to fountain pop. And so every day I like to get my pop. And I remember vividly the days that I was scrounging for change to do that, right? Now, today, my life has evolved to a different space from the hard work and the opportunities that have been given to me that I don't have to do that. But I deeply remember the seasons of my life where it was difficult. And I think for me, financial literacy is not just about learning how to have a budget and learning how to save, spend, and share wisely. But it is also about being very aware about the times when you had to struggle and being very thankful for the times that you're in now where maybe that isn't the case, but you still have lots of responsibility, from a financial perspective as well. So for me, it's not necessarily a canned answer. It's about recognizing and appreciating the seasons of financial literacy that we all go through.
And they grow, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a stagnant thing or a static thing, right? As your life changes and you have your ups and downs, hopefully more ups than downs, you are able to navigate them with some sense or monicum of an idea on how to move forward. And if you don't have the idea, you know who to go to, right?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like True Community Credit Union is one of those resources for individuals to understand and know and grow and feel appreciated and valued because, you're working hard to put this money into this institution. You want the people to treat you as such. Absolutely. And everything that I've heard from you today sounds like you are fostering and garnering a culture of respect, a culture of appreciation, that ability to look back, to move forward. So keep up the great work. And thank you for helping us understand it's about the seasons by which you're in for you to understand, what you need to understand financially. So you talked about the seasons, you talked about what's going on, you've talked about some products and tools, and I'm wondering, are there any tips or tools you can share with the viewers about how you can achieve that special place that you mentioned? So if it's not just this static time or specific time in your life, are there some tips and tools you can share to help people either get there or once they're there, know how to navigate?
Yeah, so it's interesting, I would take it back to the soft skills conversation a bit. And that I think the number one way to really engage in that financial literacy journey is to be vulnerable and to not, right? We as humans, we feel like we have to walk around as if everything is perfect. Social media tells us that everybody is living a perfect life with no errors, no issues, anything, right? And so we're all keeping up with the Joneses. We're all trying to look a certain way. But our accounts tell a different story. That's one of the things about a financial institution is it absolutely tells you how someone lives their lives, right? Yep. And so it's really, really important to be vulnerable in your conversations, to ask for help when you realize that maybe you're not able to pay the bills. Absolutely. When maybe you realize that, things are a little bit short, or you've had a life change. Maybe you've had a divorce. Maybe you've had a medical issue that's caused you to, have some sort of a different season that you're in. And the more vulnerable that you can be, where you ask for help and say, I've recognized this, can you help me? Is my first tip, I would say. The second one is if you could just sit back and listen and actually hear what the recommendations are, and then be willing to sacrifice a little bit for what the greater good is that you're going to receive in the end. And I have a hilarious story about this. When I was new into the credit union, my husband and I wanted to buy, I think it was a boat or something like that. And so we went and applied for a loan, and, I had to go through another leader to apply for a loan. When you're a leader, you have to get another leader to do your loan. And so this leader, this is one of our values, is a value of two-way feedback at the organization. And she sat me down and she said, well, I can approve this loan, but I want you to know that your credit isn't stellar, Chrissy. Like, you're kind of in a lower credit tier. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about how you could get into a better space from a credit perspective, right? We got married young. Everyone gave us a credit card. We had lots of credit card debt. That's kind of what eroded our credit at one point in time. So I sat down, I listened to her. I did all the things that she told me to do. Fast forward maybe 10 more years, and I was getting a new car, and she came like bounding over into my office, and she said, "Oh my gosh, your credit is this." And she was so excited for me, and I was so excited, and we shared this whole like proud parent moment.
Right.
And it was so fulfilling and so joyful, right? But it was only because I chose to step back and say, "You're right, I'm eating out too much," or I have a car payment that's bigger than what it should be, right? Or I need to, get rid of some of this credit card debt. And then I did those things. They're kind of icky conversations for some people to have. Yeah. But if you can be vulnerable and you can listen and then you can act, I promise you that what you will see down the road will be so rewarding, so fulfilling for you that you will say, you'll shout it from the rooftops to people, just do this, and you'll get to a better space.
They say the good Lord gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Because right? You should be listening twice as much as you're talking, right?
100%.
And so I love that value of two-way feedback, right? And it really sort of neutralizes some of the emotional pieces that we can go through regarding money, right? This is my money, actually, I made it.
Yeah, that value has another piece to it. We actually say we value two-way feedback. It is graciously welcomed when respectfully given. And so to your point about respect earlier, that's such a challenging conversation to have sometimes with people because it's really intimate, right? We try our hardest to have a really respectful conversation with each other, with our members, so that they don't feel like they're in an icky space, right? And then they can welcome it graciously as we give the feedback and feel like together we're partnering. That's what our vision is to, partner with you to write a life story that stretches beyond your imagination. And we can walk together in that because we've done it respectfully. So,
Chrissy, this is with all respect. You do not speak as the head of a financial institution. Like, you haven't talked about dividends. You haven't talked about balance sheets. You haven't talked about general ledgers. You're talking about things like values, respect, joy. You don't hear about those. I speak and know enough leaders of financial institutions, and they're high up, and that is not how our conversations go. And you haven't mentioned the market once. You haven't mentioned, some of these typical things that go along or statements that go along with a leader of a major financial institution. Yet you talk all about respect and two-way communication and being gracious and the joy of the work. And I got to tell you, it's really refreshing, right? Because had I not had an account with you all, I'd probably go get one, right? Because
that makes me feel good.
I shop, I bank, I hang out in the places where I feel valued and I feel like there's some kinship there. And everything that you're saying are the things that I'm working on as a leader here at Michigan Work Southeast. We need people to be open and honest, but respectful. And so we talked about we're doing some goal setting right now. And we said, we want to be positive and kind. And I said, those two don't naturally go together all the time, right? If you want to be honest, it was honest and kind. And sometimes when you're honest, people aren't going to perceive it as you being kind, but it's you giving the respect while being honest, where someone can take the information that you're saying and actually hear it and absorb it and make the appropriate next step. So
yeah, that's all about relationship building, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's where the trust and the relationship come in to allow that to happen. Listen, I have really strong people here, strong leaders and strong employees who are talking about the balance sheet and who are talking about the income statement and dividends and the economy. And I engage in all of those conversations with people. But we are here for such a small period of time, right, on earth. And you're spending so much of that small period of time at your place of employment or the businesses that you do business at we've just come off of this pandemic that was just like joy sucking. That's the only way I could describe it, right? It was devastating to people's mental psyche of where we are. Everyone went into self-preservation mode. We, certainly honesty and kindness were anywhere necessarily in the same space with each other. And we have got to recover from that. And we have got to take care of each other. And the rest of it follows. We will adapt to the economy, all of that, but the rest of it will follow.
You are absolutely just a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
And coming off of the heels of your statements just there, are there some lessons learned that helped you to this day that you would like to pass along? You've given us so many nuggets of fantastic information, but just wondering if there's a few things you are willing to pass along to our listeners around lessons that you've learned that you believe may help someone somewhere who's listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, my number one, lesson is to choose joy. If you were to kind of come into my office, you would see the word joy peppered throughout the room. It's not a cliche. For me, the piece about choosing joy is the ownership piece. And I think you actually said it earlier, you have to choose your own joy. You have to choose to find your joy when someone else robs you of your joy. And you have to choose to inject joy into others, right? Yep. And I tell every single one of my employees that when your hand hits the door every morning, I want you to think there is nowhere else that I would rather be because it is well, right? It is good here. I also want you to be brave enough to come to me and say, this culture, this maybe just doesn't fit me. And can we have some conversation about that? So, I learned a lesson long ago about choosing joy, about having joy, in the workplace, that regardless of your circumstances, it is well. I learned about bravery and how you need to be brave in a really respectful way and not sacrifice who you are, but also show up just as you are. And I think that that's a key piece as well. I also don't believe in leaving your baggage at the door. I think that is an unrealistic expectation for people.
Preach. Come on.
Yes. For some, this is the safe space. Like, let's just be real. Some of our employees, our members, what they're dealing with outside of these walls of our branches, this is a safe space. And I want you to do what you want to do with your baggage, right? But I also want you to know, and I want to be an employer that allows you to come as you are and just be you, right? Now, I have certain expectations that you're going to live by our mission, purpose, mission, vision, and values. And to your point, I'm going to engage in conversation where there's a culture misalignment, right? And so that's another thing that I think is critical. But if I could talk for like 5 hours, it would be about joy. And I would just say, man, read about it. Get Rich's book and read it. There's other books out there as well that talk about it. There's concepts all over about it. It is emotional, and it is like icky to some people, and it is relational, and it is what we were made for, right? Was to find joy and to be in relationship with each other. And so that joy is really my thing, man. You just need to own it and just find it.
Absolutely. And a not so shameless plug, Richard Sheridan, on his book is Joy Inc., right? Yeah. And so Chrissy, you shouted it out proudly. I'm going to do the same thing because it's life-changing, right? And it allows you to understand relationally who you are as an individual and what you bring to the workplace and how you as an individual can affect an entire organization, just about your approach, how you're engaging your colleagues, your coworkers, your teammates, how vitally important you helping to, like you said, infuse and inject joy into the workplace is. So
I think one other thing with that I think is so critical is the other lesson that I learned was that comparison is the thief of joy. Amen. Right? Yep. We are constantly comparing ourselves to the coworker, the person. We were not made the same. So you can't compare yourself to someone else because you weren't made to be like them. But when you do that, it is guaranteed to rob you of your joy. Guaranteed.
You would think today is Sunday because you're preaching, Chris. You're on it. You're on it. Yes. I got one last question for you. And this is one of my favorite questions because this is open-ended. You can take it wherever you like. Any parting words you care to share with us?
I think I would say we all have a really awesome opportunity every single day that we get to wake up, right? To show some gratitude for the day that's in front of us and to do our part, right? To make it a joyful day, to make it a day where we could walk away from it and say, well, that was good, or that went well, right? And so I think we all need to some extent, get out of our own ways, right? And recognize that we were made for such an amazing purpose. We are extraordinary people. And if we choose to just sit aside, or we choose to not engage where where we're working or where we're interacting, the gym, wherever it is, we are making a mistake on letting people see the beauty that we are. My mama taught me joy. My dad taught me love, a man that could love like no other, regardless of his circumstance, whatever was happening. And so if you were to see me driving around, you'll see I have a license plate that says love, joy, right? Because the other thing that I would leave you with is, man, those relationships that are valuable to you, take time to pour into those, take time to enjoy those and respect those, and just walk away and say, man, that's a good friend. That's a good coworker, right? That's someone that I can be vulnerable with, someone that I can just be myself with, because those safe spaces are the spaces that are going to allow you to do it all over again the next day.
Wow. Chrissy, I got to tell you, this has been better than my therapy session. You really just helped me.
I told you I'm a counselor.
Tremendously, right? I feel like I should be laying on the couch,
That's so
absorbing
funny.
all of this. So Chrissy Siders of True Community Credit Union, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on Workforce at Work. Thank you for your words, first of all, of encouragement and inspiration, but then you also gave us some wisdom around how we should be at least considering our approach to our finances. So this was a more holistic conversation than I thought it would be, but it was quite refreshing to hear. So thank you so much, Chrissy.
Oh, thanks for the invite. It was great.
All right, awesome. So once again, you've been watching Workforce at Work. We will see you next season, as this is our last episode of season 2. Be on the lookout for season 3. We've got more fantastic guests such as Chrissy. I don't know if anybody can compare, but we will actually work to make sure we're bringing in more awesome guests, more rich content. We appreciate you, Chrissy, and we appreciate all of you as viewers. Thank you.
Thanks so much.